Hey folks, picture this. You open the door to your shed or garage on a hot Texas summer day, and it feels like walking straight into a sauna. The air is thick, heavy, and hard to breathe. Tools start rusting, paint cans swell up, and you can barely stay inside for more than 10 minutes. Last year, my warehouse got so bad that some of my power tools actually started failing because of the heat. I was running noisy fans non-stop, watching my electricity bill go up every month. But even with all that, my stored equipment and supplies were still getting damaged. I was completely fed up and knew I needed a real solution. That's when I came up with an idea that could actually lower the temperature inside my warehouse, almost for free. No expensive air conditioners, no constant power draw, just a smart roof turbine that pulls the hot air out automatically and lets cool air flow in from below. That's exactly what I built using scrap materials. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through every step so you can do the same. You'll see the full build process, the mistakes I made on the roof, and most importantly, the real before and after temperature results that even surprised me. The best part? The entire system cost me under $50 and runs completely on wind power. If your shed, garage, or small warehouse turns into an oven every summer, stay with me. This might be the simplest and smartest upgrade you'll make this year. So how does it actually work? Hot air naturally rises, that's called the stack effect. By placing a turbine at the highest point on your roof, the wind spins the blades and creates a vacuum that sucks the hot air out. At the same time, cooler air gets drawn in through openings or vents at the bottom. This passive ventilation system works surprisingly well, even with just light breeze. Instead of spending $50 on a store-bought turbine, I decided to build one myself from stuff I already had lying around in my garage. I'll go through the full detailed list and why each item matters in just a moment. Before I started cutting any metal, I carefully measured my roof and chose the best location to catch the most wind. I also looked up the local building codes. I highly recommend you do the same for safety. But first, let me tell you about the small prototype I built to test the idea. It spun really well, even with just a box fan blowing on it. And right then, I knew this project was going to work. If you're tired of sweating the moment you step into your workspace, you're going to love this. Keep watching because the transformation is really satisfying. All right, let's get into the fun part, actually building this wind-powered turbine from scrap. Once I decided to go the DIY route, the first thing I did was gather everything I needed. I didn't run out and buy fancy parts. I looked around my garage and yard for usable materials. Here's the full detailed list with why each piece matters. One old 5.5-gallon metal barrel, perfect for the spinning body and blades because the metal is lightweight yet strong. Scrap sheet metal and aluminum flashing for extra blade reinforcement. Bearings from an old washing machine motor. These are key for super smooth, quiet spinning. A short piece of PVC pipe and some flexible dryer vent hose for the base. Rivets, self-tapping screws, and high-temperature silicone sealant. Basic tools you probably already own. Angle grinder with cutting and grinding discs, cordless drill, measuring tape, marker, and safety gear. Total cost was only $45.00. Most of it was scrap I found in my garage or picked up cheap at the hardware store. I barely spent anything extra. I started by cleaning the barrel thoroughly and marking out the blade pattern. I drew 6 curved blades directly on the barrel. Each blade was about 18 inches long and 8 inches wide at the widest point. Using the angle grinder, I carefully cut along the lines. This step takes patience. Go slow so you don't warp the metal. After cutting, I bent each blade outward at a 30-degree angle. This angle is important because it catches the wind efficiently, even in light breeze. I used a rubber mallet and a wooden block to shape them evenly. Then I reinforced the edges with strips of aluminum flashing riveted in place. This makes the blades much sturdier and prevents them from vibrating or bending over time. Next came the most critical part, the spinning hub. I drilled a hole in the center of the barrel bottom and mounted the washing machine bearing. I secured it tightly with bolts and lock nuts. To make sure everything was balanced, I spun it by hand on the ground multiple times and adjusted the blade angles until it turned freely without wobbling. Balance is everything. If it's off, the turbine will shake on the roof and wear out quickly. For the base, I cut a section of PVC pipe to fit over my roof vent or the hole I planned to make. I attached the barrel to this base using metal brackets and plenty of silicone to make it weatherproof. I also added a small rain deflector ring around the top so water doesn't leak inside the warehouse. I tested the whole assembly on the ground first with a strong box fan. The turbine spun smoothly and fast, even when I reduced the fan speed to simulate light wind. That gave me confidence it would work on the actual roof. Building this took me about 4 hours spread over one afternoon. It's very beginner-friendly as long as you take safety seriously. Always wear gloves, safety glasses, and ear protection when using the grinder. Cut one blade at a time and double-check your measurements. The best part about making it from scrap is how cheap and customizable it is. You can scale the size depending on your roof and warehouse dimensions. If you don't have a metal barrel, an old plastic drum or even large tin cans can work with some creativity. By the end of the build, I had a solid, well-balanced turbine ready to install. It looked rough, but worked great. Now I had to face the scariest step, getting it up on the roof and cutting the hole. All right, now the real challenge begins, getting this turbine up on the roof and cutting the hole. This is where things get scary, but it's also the most exciting part because we're finally about to see it in action. First, I prepared the roof. I made sure the area around the spot was clear of debris and that I had all my safety gear ready. I wore a full-body harness with a lifeline, a hard hat, and sturdy work boots. I also brought a strong ladder that could handle my weight plus the turbine. Next, I marked the exact hole on the roof using a laser level and a sharp pencil. I made the hole about 14 inches across so the base of the turbine would fit perfectly. This was the moment I was most nervous about. If I cut wrong, I could end up with leaks or a weak structure. I started cutting the hole with a jigsaw. It took me a while to go slow and steady. I worked from the outside in, keeping the blade inside the marked circle the whole time. Once the hole was cut, I used a grinder to smooth the edges so there would be no sharp corners that could tear through the turbine base later. After the hole was ready, I attached a weatherproof flashing ring around the opening. This creates a perfect seal so water can't get in. I placed the turbine base on the roof and screwed it down firmly with lag screws and sealant. I made sure the base was level and perfectly aligned with the flashing. Now came the tricky part, connecting the turbine to the base. I slid the barrel onto the PVC pipe and locked it in place with the metal brackets. I applied several layers of high-temperature silicone and wrapped the joint with duct tape for extra insurance. I also installed a small vent cap on top to let any trapped air escape. To make the intake even better, I cut a few small vents at the bottom of the barrel and added mesh screens so insects and leaves wouldn't get sucked in. This is a very common mistake people make, forgetting to add airflow at the bottom. I tested the whole system one last time on the roof with a leaf blower. The turbine spun nicely and the airflow felt strong. That gave me peace of mind that everything was going to work. But the real test came when I turned it on during a light wind. The blades started spinning smoothly and fast. Hot air began rushing out the top, and I could clearly feel the cool air coming in from the bottom vents. It was working exactly as planned. One mistake I made on my first try was that the turbine wasn't perfectly balanced. It shook a little when the wind hit it. So I adjusted the blade angles again and used some extra weight inside the barrel to keep everything steady. That fixed the problem completely. Installing this took me about 3 hours, mostly because of the careful sealing and testing. The good news is, it was still very doable with basic tools and a little patience. If you're nervous about working on the roof, take it slow and use a harness. It's worth the safety. By the end of the day, my warehouse looked completely different. The turbine was mounted and ready to work on the wind. All right, now the moment you've been waiting for, turning this thing on and seeing the real results. I waited for a good wind day and then gave it a test. The turbine started spinning smoothly right away. Hot air rushed out the top at a steady pace, and you could clearly see the cool air being pulled in from the bottom vents. It was working exactly as I planned. To show you the difference, I put up a simple thermometer inside the warehouse and compared it to the outside temperature. Before the turbine was working, the inside was 18 degrees hotter than the outside. After it was running, the temperature inside dropped by 14 degrees. That's a huge difference on a hot Texas day. The air inside felt fresh and comfortable. You could actually stay there for hours without feeling like you were in an oven. I also did a quick test with a smoke stick. I held it near the bottom vents and blew gently. The smoke got sucked straight into the turbine and disappeared out the top. The airflow was powerful enough to move smoke from one side of the roof to the other in seconds. The airflow was powerful enough to move smoke from one side of the roof to the other in seconds. The tools and supplies inside the warehouse were safe for the first time in months. No more rusting cans or swollen paint. Everything stayed dry and in good condition. Maintaining the system is easy. Every few weeks I check the blades for dirt or debris and give them a quick rinse. I also wipe down the silicone seal and check that the base is still tight. It takes less than 5 minutes and keeps everything running like new. Here's what I learned from the mistakes I made. The biggest one was that the turbine wasn't perfectly balanced. It shook a little when the wind hit it. So I adjusted the blade angles again and added a bit of weight inside the barrel to keep everything steady. That fixed the problem completely. Another common mistake people make is forgetting to add bottom vents for intake. Without them, the airflow isn't strong enough. I cut a few small vents and added mesh screen that made all the difference. This is a perfect solution for small sheds, garages, workshops, or even a small warehouse. You don't need electricity, and it costs almost nothing to run. It's completely passive and works with any kind of wind. If you're tired of spending money on fans and air conditioners that never fully solve the problem, give this a try. It's simple, effective, and actually delivers real results. If you want to build one for your own space, leave a comment below and tell me what materials you used. I'd love to hear your story too. Thanks for watching.